Health Nuts, episode 24.
You're listening to Health Nuts with Dr. Chris Carr. Making lifestyle changes is hard for many people, and not knowing what to do or how to do it makes the task all the more daunting. Here at Health Nuts, we focus on helping you live a fuller life by discussing everyday health issues and exploring breakthrough solutions on how to overcome them. And now, here's your host, Dr. Chris Carr.
Welcome back to another episode of Health Nuts. I'm your host, Dr. Chris Carr. I'm excited for another weekly edition of our Health Nuts podcast. Today, I have an awesome guest with us, and that is one Lauren Kail. Lauren is a certified group fitness instructor and personal trainer. Specific areas of experience include strength and conditioning, prenatal fitness, and postnatal fitness. Fitness and wellness is an ever-evolving journey for Lauren that began at a young age with competitive athletics, specifically soccer, through college. Upon graduating from Elon University with a degree in accounting and a minor in Spanish, she knew a desk job at a public accounting firm just wouldn't cut it. Travel and stress were the tipping points as her health was declining. She began to take matters into her own hands by putting extensive time and research into a whole body healing process, which is a lifelong journey. After breaking away from that grind in 2011, Lauren began bringing her love of fitness and wellness to the drawing board. Enjoying the blessings of each day and reaching out in kindness as a helping hand to others is how she desires to navigate this life. She's got an awesome studio opening up that she's a part of, and we'll be talking about that during this podcast. But more specifically, we'll be getting into some of her personal healthcare products, as well as maybe a little bit of touch on the nervous system, how it all connects. So with that being said, Lauren, welcome to the podcast. Excited to have you on. That was a real formal intro of you. Tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here. I say to many people, I feel like I went into the wrong field. As you mentioned, my degree that feels like it came from a past life. But everything health and wellness wise excites me so much. And just seeing as each day passes, connecting with new people and old people that I've been friends with, it's just, there's such a need out there with, the way that our society has unfolded and the trends that we're taking. We often go for convenience. And so I just, it's been an exciting journey to kind of help people make changes in ways that help mitigate against that convenience factor. So
it's always nice when you can, everybody needs to make a living, but when you can make a living helping others and change other people's lives, it makes going home just that much easier.
That's true. Yeah, definitely.
So I always like to open up these podcasts with an affirmative, one of your affirmations, something you maybe have coached your clients with over the years. What's a special quote of yours?
For me personally, I have a very busy mind, and I find that a lot of women that are similar and not similar to me can relate to this because, and men too. I mean, if we care about other people and we want to do for others, and that's a wonderful thing. But, sometimes there's a lot to be learned in the still and the slow parts of life. And so I think that a lifelong lesson for me that I try to encourage people to take a step back and embrace is there's a lot to be learned from stillness. And I know some buzzwords lately are like meditation, deep breathing, those types of like contemplative, like dialing back activities. And so those things are very helpful and important to me. And I think that most people can find them useful.
And that is an awesome segue with some of the toxic thoughts that can take place in one's body, and how, we know mindset is one of the 5 essentials that I'll teach patients on, is that where mindset takes place and how the thoughts can dictate your actions, and your actions can dictate in turn your long-term beliefs. But one of the other areas that dictate health, which we're going to get into, is toxicity. So your overall view on toxicity, I know you were talking earlier about pre-interview about gut toxicity, but specifically personal care products and how you came across that. think a lot of folks, when they go out to maybe Giant Eagle or CVS or to the store, they'll just buy whatever's on sale and throw in their cart, or female personal care products. What's the issue with that? Why can't we just buy the $2.99 blush or the $3 lipstick?
Well, coming from somebody who used to do that, I can understand why, it's a convenient way to get what you think you need. And for me, unfortunately or fortunately, sometimes I believe everything happens for a reason, and blessings can be in disguise. So for me personally, this is kind of how this is unfolded. But I only started to know more because, like you mentioned in my intro, I experienced declining health starting about 10 years ago or so. And I first started with cleaning up my diet, and then seeking care from alternative sources as opposed to your big box medical care, which had kind of let me down. And then I've reevaluated the way I was moving my body. I actually come from a background of overexertion just from competitive athletics. And then, it was surprising to me how much of an impact things that we put on our bodies or that we're exposed to on a daily basis can affect us. And so that's how I got to the personal care aspect of things, and just realizing the organ of the skin, and how over 60% of what we put on our skin is absorbed into the bloodstream within the first 20 minutes of application. So those sorts of things kind of got my mind moving in a different direction, away from the $2.99 blush at Giant Eagle.
Yeah, I have that. When I do my workshops, one of the things I'll say, who has the best product, who has the best deal they've gotten on personal care products. Before they know what I'm trying to teach on, they'll be like excited, like, I got the $2 whatever product it was, or I got shampoo for $1.50 here. I'm like, okay, well, what you're doing is you're slowly killing yourself. And then the segue they find, Nam said, who got the most expensive stuff out there? And sometimes even the most expensive stuff can be bad for you as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So it's kind of knowing what you're looking for. I know some of the ingredients that I work with patients on, one of them is called sodium lauryl sulfate.
Yes.
Another one's called propylene glycol. Those two components, we know those are carcinogens. Is there any other ingredients or anything else they can look for when somebody's doing shopping online or on Amazon or at the local store? What are they looking for?
So, gosh, unfortunately, there's a long list. But, you could start with, I think a lot of companies are kind of moving in a better direction where they're, you'll see on their tagline or whatever saying we don't use phthalates or parabens, things like that. I actually have, as a natural extension of myself and the passion that I've just mentioned to you about this topic, I have recently become affiliated with a company called Beauty Counter, who outlines very extensively a list of ingredients that they will never use. And so that can be a useful tool in navigating that market. Surprisingly, everybody kind of has their own stance on this. I don't want to get like on a hot button topic, but our country hasn't passed a major law to regulate the safety of ingredients since 1938. And so that's kind of alarming if you sort of just look at, like, for example, where Pittsburgh was in the 30s. I remember my dad telling me a story. He road tripped through Pittsburgh and saw, just dumping in the water from massive companies those are their like toxic byproducts of whatever they're producing, specifically steel, and just the black smoke pumping into the air. And I'm not like crazy extreme by any means, but I do believe in progress, and I think that we're in 2017 now, so the fact that our country hasn't even explored litigation in that realm since the 30s is it's inexcusable. So and then if you look at the history of cosmetics, for example, not just personal care but cosmetics, lead and other heavy metals that are very detrimental to the endocrine system, the thyroid, reproductive, I mean, everything. Those things are still used in cosmetics today, and it's just not, it's not okay.
Yeah, one of the exercises that we'll train on is we'll say, hey, when you go home, count the number of products you put on your body from the time you get up to the time you go to bed, and how many is that, and how many have you actually looked into. And I love that stat. And you're exactly right. That stat, legislation has been passed since the 30s. And you're right. It's embarrassing that it hasn't taken place. And same thing with the supplement industry. It's the Wild West out there as well, where you can get away with no checkpoints on there.
Exactly. That, and it is scary because it's things that we're using, like you said, on a daily basis. And so it's like, okay, everything in moderation, but when we're not moderating, like every day is a lot. And so that can build up in our systems to the point where the body just doesn't even know what to do and how to release the toxins that we're giving it every day. So I love to help people in that realm. I feel like it's truly a natural extension of the health and wellness, and something that people find so easy to overlook. So
for a takeaway for the audience, is there anywhere you would direct them towards how they would know for sure, like what their product they're using now? Is there an app you recommend, or anywhere you would send them to?
Absolutely. That's a great question. I always encourage people we live in Pittsburgh. I'm not from Pittsburgh, but since moving here, I realized that like we all live in like the older homes that have that such character, but they also have the medicine cabinet. So open your medicine cabinet and just kind of take an inventory, like you said, evaluate what you're using, from morning to night, and then getting a baseline of those products that you use most often, and head over to the Environmental Working Group's website, ewg.org. Their Skin Deep database specifically addresses personal care products. Not everything has been studied yet, so they're still doing research on some popular products, so they won't have those in the system just yet. But this is a true third-party addressing of personal care and even home care, cleaning products, things like that. And they rate products on a scale from 1 to 10, 1 being cleanest, 10 being most toxic. And they account for the individual, sorry, my mic keeps falling, individual ingredient listing as well, and how much of each ingredient is used in a product. So it's really a wonderful, like, big picture assessment of how safe a product is. And they're constantly researching and continuing to evaluate products. So I suggest that you can get the app on your phone. You can go on their website. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I love that app as well. And it's once again, it's EWG. It's Environmental Working Group, that app, and it's a really good resource to look at. So if you have products you're questioning, check it out and see where they fit into the overall toxicity load. So now we have that person that's been becoming toxic for years and years. They were, using some of the things we were recommending they not do, but they've been doing it over a chronic period of time. So it's little micro traumas they've been doing over a long period of time, which will turn it into a macro trauma. Now, things will break down, such as the endocrine system, the thyroid's not functioning well, or even gut issues and gut health. What are some other things? Now we have that connection to take place with the nervous system, how it all relays back to the body. So if somebody's nervous system is breaking down, what are some things maybe it could possibly happen from that?
There's such a long laundry list, unfortunately, that can happen. But I can speak to my own personal experience, which is kind of what's led me on my health and wellness journey as it is. So initially, I experienced gut health issues. So the integrity of my gut lining. Not only are personal care products an issue, mine specifically stemmed from a few other things as well, like overuse of antibiotics and other common drugs to our marketplace. But so my gut health declined. I began to experience reproductive health issues. And then that kind of segued into actual autoimmune presentations with my gut, like autoimmune colitis. If you were to test like in my blood, so like with the autoimmune colitis, I would present antibodies in my bloodstream to certain things that were coming into the bloodstream undigested from my GI. So I developed a casein allergy. Hopefully, eventually I can, heal everything and get over that. So it's just like it snowballs. It starts with one thing and it segues and then it leads into something else. And currently, my most recent thing is hypothyroidism from a source. They can't really pinpoint where, but this is where we were talking earlier in the pre-interview, where I found that the chiropractic care that you provide is so crucial in opening up the neuro pathways for the brain and the body to be in proper communication to even promote health. Because you can do all those things like limit your toxic load, supplement well with good companies that are providing good quality supplements. You can change your diet. You can, do a protocol for gut healing. But at the end of the day, if your brain and your organs aren't responding and communicating properly, you can only do so much. So that's kind of the big light bulb that's gone off with me recently, and just seeing that like it has to be a care process from top to bottom. It can't just be, oh goodness, I have low T3 and low T4 in my thyroid, like I have hypothyroidism. No, it's a full picture that requires analysis on every level, head to toe. The body functions as one.
It sure does. And so medically, that's going to get supplemented with something called Synthroid typically, where they're going to supplement that. And then you ask the doc, hey, you know what, you have hypothyroidism, take Synthroid, and you take that for the rest of your life. Or if you can move it down a little bit farther in the body, if it's a gut issue, if it's a reflux issue, and say, hey, when I eat, I'm getting this reflux all the time, and I don't know what's going on. Say, hey, I know what this is. It's acid reflux, and here's your Prilosec, and you take this for the rest of your life.
Right.
And that's kind of their algorithm, where there's really they're researching and they're focusing on the effects, but not too much on the cost. So if you're able to backtrack all that like you're doing, to change the nutritional protocols, make sure you're exercising the right way, detox your gut, detox your body. But on top of that, if your nerve system is a hot mess, then it's not going to matter what you do. So that's an awesome point. It's a great share, and I love the way that you formulated that with what your story was. So that was great. Now, if you have that person that's out there and they're sick and suffering, that maybe they're where you were at 5-10 years ago. They're like, you know what? I've tried it all. I've done meds, I've done supplements, and I'm just sick and tired of being sick and tired. What do you tell that person?
Well, that's a hard place to be. So I don't want to, in saying something short and brief just because of time's sake, I don't want to coat over, the real feelings that they're having and things of that nature. But I will say you have to take the matters into your own hands. Thankfully, there are people like you that are out there that take a whole body approach. But not everybody's like that. And then with something so delicate, for example, let's say thyroid, just because it personally is, right, I can relate to. Many physicians are not comfortable addressing the thyroid because they haven't been trained to even look past TSH. So a lot of people have thyroid issues and don't even know it, which was me, because I didn't have the normal symptoms that typically hypothyroidism patients do. And so I just had to keep pressing and digging. And I think that there's such a beautiful lesson in perseverance, whether it's, out on the sports field or in your job or, taking care of a loved one, whatever it is, there's even personally in your health journey, perseverance will lead you to, steadfastness, the ability to press on and be joyful while you do it. There's such value there, and to not give up, because there was a point where, especially if you're someone who's so sick, there's so many levels of issues, like you're an onion, you maybe have only gotten down to one layer and realize that it's not you that's a wacko that's so sick. And I actually thought it was you. Yeah, I thought it was me. And then finally I found someone who looked further than my TSH. My TSH was normal. My T3, T4, reverse T3 were not. They were barely there. And I thought that that can mess with your brain chemistry. If your hormones are off, then you can't cognitively function in a way that is good for you. So you can become depressed and feel down on yourself. So know that there's so much more than just your symptoms. And we have to be willing to find people like you and other functional outlets that can help us really take the whole picture into effect and not just give up after our, PCP says, oh, sorry, we have no answers for you. So.
Right. And that you end up feeling like, well, I guess I have to deal with this for the rest of my life.
Exactly.
And one of the areas where you come into play is fitness and restoring maybe the body's health potential in a different essential, and that's improving overall their fitness health. And that plays a huge role. If you're able to increase red blood cells in the body and oxygen throughout the body's going to be able to heal at a faster capacity. So I know with your place that's coming up and you're opening up, how are you going to train your clients and classes? What are you going to do on that level to help these patients that are sick and suffering and are looking for answers, maybe on a fitness aspect?
That's a great question. We have a wonderful group of friends, and most of us are moms that will be teaching classes at the studio. Our great friend Katie Wataki is the owner, and there's a big push out there, I think, in the fitness industry for numerical metrics. For everything from the scale to how many calories you're burning and what you need, what your intake needs to be, all the while limiting, the nutrient content as well when you limit the caloric intake. That's another story. But so anyway, this numbers push. And I think that the mindset that we're trying to create under Katie's leadership is doing what is right for you in the present moment at that time. So you could come into class, let's say you're like me. I've been told by physicians that overexertion is not my friend right now because of healing my thyroid. So less intense movement of the body, less strenuous activity. I shouldn't be running marathons. That's my needs. Now, if I were to go into, some other places that encourage fitness, which is wonderful, but are very numerically based, I might feel uncomfortable because that might not look like it's my best and I'm not measuring up. So our philosophy is to really work with clients based off of what their needs are and to make them feel welcome and successful in whatever level they know and they choose to be at that day, at that time.
That's great. Because you go online or you go on YouTube and you watch videos, and it's similar to health. It's similar to nutrition. If you Google what is healthy eating, and you're going to get 2 million different ways on what people think healthy eating is. And same thing with exercise. You can get told a bunch of different ways on how to exercise, and people go to the most common denominator, which is, I'm not doing anything.
Right.
And trying to find the right place for them. So I love a lot of stuff I love about what you all are doing is a lot of it's low impact, but it's specific to the client. It's not going to be a cookie cutter regimen similar to, the don't hate me CrossFitters, but CrossFit is an awesome workout, but it's not for maybe somebody who's not very active. It's Olympic lifting,
right? And
it can be a very good way to injure yourself if you're not trained accordingly. So I know there's going to be a bunch of people that might touch the wrong way. So if you are a CrossFitter, I'm not cutting down on you. Just know that it is a very complex movement y'all are doing. It's maybe not be something that's out there for maybe the lay person who's just getting off the couch.
Right. And I agree with you. I actually love CrossFit. I think that that's my competitive personality. And to speak to the studio specifically, our cycle classes are going to be extremely intense, but you can go into the cycle class knowing that, all of our movement is generally to the beat of the music. So there's a mind body connection, which can be really fun. But at the same time, if we're moving too quickly, or if in our cardio bar class, we're having moves that are impact driven, there's always levels and options that people can take where they can feel success at whatever level they are. So I agree with you on the CrossFit. I do think it's fun. But again, like if you're snatching and you've never done it before, we have to be careful.
Yeah, extremely. But it's good for me because being a chiropractor, I they snatch the wrong way, then they end up in my office. So
there you go.
It keeps me in business. Yeah. So before I let you go, a couple questions before I let you go. What makes you a health nut?
Oh, we maybe should be interviewing my husband over this one because he's like, whoa, you're crazy. But hopefully in a good way, he means that. Yeah. What makes me a health nut? My goodness. I can open up and talk about things that people are like, I've never even considered that before. So maybe that's a blessing and a curse. Maybe I do need to control my tongue a little bit in that regard, but it is just everything's so fascinating to me, and all these areas of care that we can receive as clients of yours, for example. Like the information really isn't out there. It's not mainstream yet. And I want it to be because it's so beneficial and we all need it. So just from my personal experience, I've become so passionate about sharing. And so I think that has made me be a little bit of a nut.
Awesome. An invaluable resource. You shared the website earlier in the app, the Environmental Working Group. You have another resource or a book you're reading that you want to pass on? Resource or a book that I'm reading. Well, again, I'll touch on Beauty Counter again, because this company is doing a ton to actually advocate for legislative change. So hopefully we won't have to say the U.S. hasn't reevaluated our personal care industry since the 30s. We are actually helping to move. We have a lobbyist, and so we're helping to move things in the right direction, to the point where in the spring there was a hearing. So that company has a lot of resources that you can look on their blog and things of that nature, where they help kind of direct the consumer in the right way and help them make better informed choices. So that would be another resource that I would suggest. Awesome. Thanks for sharing. And lastly, so the studio, it's coming up. Name of the studio, how do they find you? The audience they're itching at the bit. They're looking for you. How do they find you?
Yeah. So the studio is called Sweat Pittsburgh, Sweat PGH. And we are in the South Hills of Pittsburgh. We are in a complex called Sienna, which is right by the new Whole Foods, across from South Hills Village. And let's see, we don't have our full website up and running, but you can go to www.sweatpgh.com. And there will be a little field. It says coming soon, but you can input your email address for updates and information as we begin to open our doors. So we'll be doing some fun intro stuff. We do also have an event coming up. It's a collaboration with Mindful Brewing Company and Sweat. And we're doing a bar class at the bar. So you can head to our Facebook page, just type in Sweat PGH, and you'll see that event on September 16th at 9 a.m. At Mindful Brewery. So
awesome. Well, I love what y'all are doing, and I wish you nothing but the best and the success, not only of Sweat, but as well as the mission you're on to help change the lives in a natural way. So thanks for sharing your story, and I appreciate you giving back today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. And I'll talk to all of you in the audience next week. Have a blessed week. Bye now.
So, you've heard from the experts yourself this episode and have gotten some golden nuggets on health. There is so much more to come and so much more to learn. Head on over to pghcw.com. Again, that's pghcw.com. And sign up for our newsletter where you'll receive free info on how to get and stay healthy. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on Health Nuts with Dr. Chris Carr. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast and please leave a review.